Well, good morning, beautiful friends. How you doing? It's a beautiful day here in Bali, and it's a privilege and honor to share a story with you today that I feel is quite profound on the subject of crystals. I had a few messages last night, and whenever I get at least 3 messages, I follow through from that. And the message, and it was a great question from everybody. Thank you very much. I've tried to explain it before in a few of my videos, but it's a little bit challenging now for you to find the video that explains, because there's 850 videos or something like that. So yeah, I'm happy to explain this morning. I think it's about 6:30 in the morning here. Something like that. It might be 7. Got up very early this morning, did some meditation, and put a few crystals out. I'm just going to show you. I normally have a little bag with me like this, and I work on, a bunch of crystals, maybe 50, 30, 50 crystals at a time, and put good energy into it. And I'll explain exactly what that means and how and why the crystals that I work on sometimes people say are extremely high vibration and they can feel them. So, and I'm going to teach you how as well. This is what this video is about. The question was asked this morning, now that you don't do the work anymore, how can you work on crystals and put energy into them through your clients? And yes, if you look at my I actually explained to people I was a bit nervous of that. Would I be able to still bring forward that very same energy as I'm doing the healing work? And when I say nervous, I was just a little bit apprehensive, because I'm always in that thought of, will it work? And I need proof myself. It's not like I just believe. So I work hard on a kind of scientific level as well, because I'm working every day on crystals and feeling them. And I've come to the stage in my life now that I can say, yeah, depending on what you believe a master is, many people talk about the word master, and it means if you've put over 10,000 hours into your work, like a football player, he's become a master of his art, or an artist who spends 10,000 hours painting, he becomes a master of his art. I don't like the word master per se, because it has a similar effect to guru. For me, it's just I've been persistent and I've worked at it and loved it. And work is not work to me, doing this field of work. It's just a beautiful way of life. So let me just share a story with you first, okay? When I first started this field of work, this journey on understanding energy, because a lot of people say, what do you mean energy? What does it mean? Well, when you really truly walk a path of enlightenment, awakening awareness, you start to see beyond eating, drinking, sleeping and working. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating what you can see when you're awake that you couldn't before. It's mind-blowing. And for me, it was really kind of like, it was them moments where you just laugh and you think, what's going on? Well, I had them moments so many times. 16 years ago, my journey began, and I was pulled into this field of work. It was never anything that I wanted, ever. It wasn't, my mum had died when I was 12. I had no belief system. How can somebody take away my angel, my mother, and leave a rotten father who basically was abusive? How can there be such things as God, love, kindness, angels, and a spirit world and a loving world? How can there be a loving world? Like my dad said, when you die you just turn to dust. And that was my belief, because of his anger and losing the wife that he abused to eventually become ill. And I think he knew deep down that he killed his wife by his anger and his abuse. So yeah, I didn't believe in any of this. So it's like, for me, it was kind of challenging, just trying to grasp the things that were happening. It's like, are you kidding me? Is this real? And at the time I was married to Susie, and we had a beautiful little girl, China, and we'd moved to Spain. So I'd be walking on the streets and I'd look up and the street light would come on at like 6-7 o'clock at night when it was off, just as I walked past it. And I thought, oh, interesting, the lights are coming on, it's getting a bit dark. And over the weeks and months, I used to see these lights coming on as I came up to them, and I thought, this is weird. So I'd walk away and the light would go off, and then I'd walk back up to it and the light would come on. Now this is just an example of the start of the awakening, okay, and energy. And it persisted, and I don't want to go on, but I mean, I could write a book. I am, but it's like lying in bed, and all of a sudden Susie jumped up and said, "What was that? What's that?" I jumped up. I said, "What's what?" And at the corner of the bed, where the bedside shabby chic table, bedside table is, we both turned and looked, and the table went and moved around about at least that much on its own. We looked at each other, and surprisingly to this day I had no fear, and neither did she. We laughed and we went back to sleep. And those were the kind of moments that made me realize there is something more to energy. And I'm not going to go into detail about that, but I'm going to share something else with you. So months went by. We had a shop called Tickle Pink, and I had now just started doing my my psychic work and my healing work. And I'd come downstairs from Tickle Pink because I had a little beautiful healing room above Tickle Pink in the shop. And I always used to smile when I came down and saw lots of deliveries from all over the world for Tickle Pink. And I could see Susie's excitement, opening the boxes, being proud, cleaning them, looking at them and showing me how amazing they are and how brilliant she is at ordering and buying the best stock which is going to sell. And I used to smile and because I could see differently now. I was seeing things differently. And I'd say, yeah, well done, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful Betty Boop. You've got in your hand little miniature side Betty Boop. Yeah, beautiful, and it's going to sell today. And I go, yeah, I know, it'll probably sell straight away. And she'd clean it and she'd put it in the shop. Now, bear in mind, this shop is filled with hundreds, if not thousands, of products. And everybody who comes into that shop isn't locals. We couldn't ever run a business with locals in Spain. In that village, they just don't buy, not from our shop anyway, and not from many of the other shops. We relied on tourists. So Mijas Pueblo is a tourist village without a doubt. That was one of the reasons why I chose that place as well. Well, so I thought. But I knew that we would have a shop one day, and if there's lots of tourists, which there are at least 1 million a year, then there's going to be a chance that we can run a business and sell products, and they'll do well. So everybody who comes into that shop, predominantly 99.9%, are people who have never walked into that shop before. They come from Japan, China, America, Australia, Canada, everywhere in the world. People come to this mountaintop village because it's a beautiful, whitewashed, very, very popular village. Google it, okay? It's called Mijas Pueblo, M-I-J-S Pueblo, okay? So I was watching her and I could see her excitement and this love for the product she was cleaning, and sure enough, she'd put it on the shelf. Now, bear in mind, this happened often. A group of people had come in, say from Japan, never been in the shop before. So if you think about it, if you've just walked into a shop, every single product on all of the shelves are brand new. You've never been in the shop before, so everything looks new. So you can't predict something is going to sell because they've been in 100 times before and, oh, this is new. Everything's new. So that takes the question out of, well, it was brand new. So, and out of all the other little tiny Betty Boops that we had, a collection of maybe 100, she'd put this now Betty Boop wearing a red dress and holding a red bag, and she'd put it amongst the rest of them. No sooner did she do that, this is what I recall and remember many times. A Japanese girl would come in and head straight to the Betty Boop wearing the red dress and pick it up and bring it to the counter and buy it. Susie would have a massive smile on her face and as if, and I'd go, and they'd be out and she'd be proud as anything. Now, I never said anything to Susie because it wasn't that important, but it was important to me to understand what I was doing with crystals and how what Susie was doing was the same thing but with her products. You see, guys, the most powerful energy that you hold within you is the power of happiness, the power of excitement, the power of love, the power of appreciation. All of those words that we use are a very high vibration that is within our hands, within our body, which we create, which we can, in fact, channel to. But that creation, which comes from the heart, is a very powerful energy. Now, imagine this is the Betty Boop figure. I'm holding it and cleaning it, feeling very excited, knowing that it's going to sell because I'm putting that energy into it and knowing somebody's going to pick it up and take it away, and proud of this beautiful product because it's beautiful and gorgeous. What Susie was doing without even knowing is she was practicing the art of what I was doing, placing energy into something and giving it an energy life force. And of course, people don't know this, but they do feel it on an energetic level. Just like you can walk into a room and feel the pull to go to somebody and feel the pull to keep away from somebody, depending on what level they're feeling and what energy they're feeling that day. So if somebody's bitter, angry, feeling awful, feeling sad, you can feel that and you will turn and sit somewhere else. Many people go into a restaurant and say, no, I don't feel quite right. No, this isn't quite right. You're thinking it's because of where it is. No, it's because you're around energy and maybe in that particular area it doesn't feel right. So you just don't know why you feel like that, but you'd like to move somewhere else. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Positive and negative energy. And when you honor that, you'll find your life becomes a lot more happier. When you honor what feels right and what doesn't. Same with friendships, same with everything. But yes, going back to Susie, she was practicing the same thing that I was doing, but she didn't realize. So I knew exactly what she was doing every day, and it was working. And she was so proud of herself buying these products. And I never said anything. I didn't want to cause her to think anything else, because I wanted her to keep going, because what she was doing was correct, and it was absolutely what I was doing. What I was doing with my clients was working on the energy of 100% mind, body and spirit. So what I am saying is that if Susie was unhappy, if she wasn't feeling healthy, she could pick that same very beautiful Betty Boop up and it wouldn't work, because her energy would be low, and thus it would enter or go around the energy perhaps. A lot of people believe that would be the same effect on crystals. I disregard that because I've never picked a crystal up that I thought, oh, that's horrible. So I believe on a level of man-made plastics and just things that, I don't know, things that aren't kind of healing. A crystal is healing. If you ever pick a crystal up, no matter what, it will heal you. But I'm talking about like the Betty Boop and things like that. But let me just emphasize what I'm trying to say. When I work with crystals, like this afternoon, I'll be working on these, a little selection of different crystals. I have to be spiritually strong in the mind, the body and the soul. I have to be physically on top form. My body has to feel well. There isn't a part in my body where I think, oh, something's hurting, because you will stop the flow of that energy running through you and into the crystal. Where the pain is, your energy goes to heal in your body. So if I'm in pain, there's no point me working on a crystal. I need the crystal to help me. So I'm now enjoying the energy of the crystal to heal me at that particular point. So let me go back to my pure energy healing crystals. Okay, let me go back to them. I'm just going to take this crystal out. Okay, so this is one of 3,000 or 4,000 crystals that I have on my website that I've worked on for 16 years. Some of those crystals on that website have been there for 16 years. I know at least 300 or 400 that are still there. And last week, one of those crystals sold. And it's not about time. It's not about anything like, oh, why hasn't it sold? Crystals go when they're ready. So, for instance, this beauty, okay? This is one of the crystals that I picked up and fell in love with, okay? Just like the rest of the crystals. I will take this crystal today in my hand, whether it's 1 or 2 or 50, depending on how I'm feeling. And I will close my eyes and I will do exactly the same thing what Susie did, exactly the same. In simple terms, I'm trying to teach you in simple terms. I am now channeling an energy of love into this crystal. However, I went a step further. I wanted to know if it was possible to channel certain frequencies, certain energies, certain vibrations into a crystal that would help people feel better for certain circumstances. So Susie would channel in an energy of love, which everybody would want, which is probably ultimately the most powerful energy. But what about if you're suffering with depression? What if I could do healing work on this crystal and put the energy of healing depression? So over the 16 years, I've learned to master the art of how to place energy into certain crystals and specific frequencies. Now, how did that happen? And that's a great question, guys. So, the first crystal I ever had in my hand, I was working on 2 or 3 clients who were going through terrible situations in their life with feeling really bad on a night. They couldn't sleep well. They were having nightmares. Lots of bad things were happening to them. And I noticed that these are the patterns that happen when you truly do the work and you take notice. At least 3 or 4 of my clients had come to me with anxiety, couldn't sleep, feeling bad, anxious, and their partners were really abusive. So what I would do is this first crystal that was gifted to me, I had it in my hand. I was doing healing work. I knew how to do healing work. I just started learning and it was doing really well. But for some reason, I had no idea about crystals. However, somebody gifted me a crystal. So I'm holding this crystal for some reason and kept putting it back in my pocket and working on these 3 or 4 clients with the same specific issues. Anyway, a few days later, and I always carried this crystal, no idea why, it was in my pocket. I met this lovely lady and her daughter was playing around the table. For some reason, I took this crystal out and put it down on the table. And as we're having a chat with this lovely lady, her daughter flew over and grabbed my crystal. And she was absolutely besotted, bewildered, mesmerized. And I was watching but not saying anything. I just took notice and listening to her mother. Anyway, they left, and of course, I let her have the crystal because she wasn't letting it go. And I said, oh yeah, let her keep it. I didn't know anything about crystals. 2 or 3 weeks later, or maybe 2 weeks later, I had a phone call she called, anyway, it doesn't matter what she's called. So she called me and she said, Mark, I got to tell you something. And I said, yeah, what's up? She said, my little girl took that crystal from you. And she said, that night, she slept like a baby. Okay, what does that mean? She said, look, Mark, I'm going to tell you something now. For the past months, my daughter has been having night terrors at a certain time at night. I don't know whether it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't remember now. And she said, and the night terrors have stopped completely. I went, okay. And she said, and also she was being bullied at school and the bullying stopped. And I went, okay, not understanding anything, because what does that mean? I don't understand. So look, she said, Mark, all I can put it down to is the crystal she keeps with her and she doesn't let it go. It comes into her bedroom. It's on her bed, in her hand, she sleeps with it. And I went, okay, wow. And that was the awakening for me. That was my message from the spirit world. That was the world giving me information about crystals. I didn't read books. I didn't know anything about crystals. And this is how my journey began. I didn't know any of this. In fact, the first mentor lived 3 doors up above me that I didn't even know in an urbanization. And she said, when the pupil's ready, the teacher will appear. I had no idea about any of this. I didn't know who she was until, I gave her a hand up some stairs one day. And anyway, so going back to this, when I realized that there may be something in this, as she's telling me, and I said, let me ask you a question, because this is my thinking mind. Be honest. Has anything happened from that day that has changed your daughter? Like, have you been playing music to her on a night that you didn't do before? Have you changed her diet? Have you done anything that's different? Has anything happened in the environment? Have you done it? Nothing, Mark. Nothing. Nothing's changed. Every day is the same, but she's changed. Well, that was the beginning of my understanding about crystals. And here I am now with a website, not knowing that after 16 years of working with thousands upon thousands of crystals, because I love working with them, not because I was there to sell them. I actually gifted tens of thousands of crystals away because I wanted people to experience healing, not to sell them. And many people will tell you, many thousands will tell you, that I have gifted more crystals in this world than anybody they've ever known, and I do to this day, because I want people to experience crystals. The start of wanting to make a living from crystals didn't really happen more per se that people said, can you charge my crystal? And people would come into me and I'd charge them and give it to them as a gift. And then people would say, but I want one from you. And I say, well, I need to buy them because, well, I want that one. I went, okay, well, I need to buy that one, but that one's a little bit expensive. Don't care. So it started that way naturally. And then I started buying 2 or 3 of that particular crystal. And I thought, well, if I'm working on that client with that crystal, I'll buy 3 more the same and work on 3 crystals and now have 2 crystals ready for other clients and so on. It was a natural progression. So I'm taking you through how my crystal website started and where we are till this day. So I then started working on crystals with my clients. And every time I picked out a crystal and placed it on a client, and that energy that I felt with the client and what they were going through and feeling, which may have been the loss of a family member, I would then take that crystal and put it onto a tree. And it was a beautiful tree which looked like it was metal with like little prongs everywhere, and I'd stick that on the bottom of the first level of the tree. So that's the first level, and that was kind of like 10 hours. And then there was another level which was 20, another 30, and it went up to 50. It went up to 5 levels. And when it got to nearly the top, I'd think, okay, it's ready now. But then sometimes even at 7 or 8 hours, I just knew that crystal was ready. So then I realized it's not about how many hours you put into it. It's about when the client is pulled to you and you know that that crystal is for the client. And many people would look at my tree, my crystal tree, and say, oh my God, that one there is beautiful. And say, there you go, there's your gift. And I knew it was for them. But then what I was finding is that when they were taking a certain crystal, they were taking the crystal that I had worked on with a client who let's say, had a chest infection, who had really bad chest. And then that client would say, oh, my chest has been terrible. And thus I started seeing a pattern. And until this day, I swear with my hand on my heart that I believe wholeheartedly that when you work with a certain energy, that energy goes into the crystal. And when you go on my website and look and feel a crystal, it doesn't matter what it is, that crystal is especially for you because of the energy that is within. Now, a lady a couple of weeks ago said, I don't know why I'm drawn to the malachite, but I'm not traveling. And I said, well, I don't know then. She said, well, it doesn't make any sense. And I said, well, I don't know, but if it feels right, go with that. No sooner did she do that, but her best friend called her and said, I have got nobody to go with to go to, where was it? I think it was Egypt, she said. And they were going to do some sort of, what's it called? Cruise. So it wasn't just Egypt, but she said one of the places. So I laughed and I said, you see, it all makes sense. And this is how it's been with me. So for me, there is a bigger picture to everything. And so many of us are so narrow-minded that all we see is this. Because if Mark says that, and I say, no, don't just go with what I say. Go with what feels right. And thus, when people tell me, oh, take this crystal because, the book, one of the books says it's that, I don't even listen to books, and I don't want you to listen to me. Do you know one of the things that I teach as a pure energy healer, when people come to learn pure energy healing and they've got the certificate in their hand after they've learned the art of pure energy healing, do you know what I tell them all? You want to know? I say the day you take that certificate and put it in the bin is the day you become a true healer. And they look at me and they're sometimes really upset. And they say, but I'm proud of being a healer and worked and learned from you. I said, yes, but you will only limit yourself to that certificate and me. And you will only be as good as how you feel. That is what's on your wall. But if you take everything away and become the master and not limit yourself by a certificate, which is a piece of paper, you become the master of your work. And that's what I'm waiting for. So what I'm trying to say is that I guess what I'm saying is the question this morning was, now that you're not doing your healings on people every day, how is it the crystal can still retain that energy? The healing work on a client is a beautiful thing, and you can channel that energy through and heal that person with that one specific frequency. However, if you're in 100% energy, just like Susie, you can channel love and you can channel any energy you want into that crystal for anybody that you love and care for. If you know somebody is feeling bad, filled with grief and sad, you will take that crystal, this crystal, hold it in your hand and channel that energy if you sit for maybe an hour or two and work and see that client well, or see your friend well, see them happy, but see the energy of grief disappearing, channeling the energy away from them to connect them to the spirit world, to that very person. And then you go into a deep, pure energy healing meditation, crystal healing mode. And I teach people this. So you actually become more psychic, more aware when you're working with your crystal. And it becomes almost like a story of how you see them, how you give them healing, how you see them happier, and how you connect them to their family and spirit world. Thus, you end up, after 1 hour, 5 hours, a week, a month, sometimes years, like my crystals, and you end up with a pure energy working healer's crystal. That, my dear friends, is my story to you today, and it is about to start raining. So, from my heart to yours, I hope you truly understand how I work every day on my crystals, which go onto my website and that I gift to you every day as well. Today's word is pyjamas, because there's a lovely lad there with pyjamas on, which looks like pyjamas, and Anyway, so there you go. That's today's word. Type down pajamas, and I'll choose 5 people for a nice piece of Moldavite. I'll get Sonia to choose one of you guys to give you a nice piece of Moldavite, a little tiny chip to work on. It's exactly like how I started with Moldavite. Okay, guys, love you all. Have a great day. I really mean that. Take care of yourself till tomorrow. Bye, guys. Oh, I ain't done that for a while, have I? See you later. Okay, bye.